After years of living overseas, he returned home as a billionaire and finally reunited with the love of his life whom he had not heard from for years. Yet this fateful encounter turned out far more shocking than he ever imagined. It was nothing more than an unexpected stay at a hotel, a fleeting moment, and in the blink of an eye, their entire lives were rewritten. Standing right in front of him was his fiancée, the woman he had spent years searching for endlessly. Now she stood there wearing a housekeeping uniform, cleaning hotel rooms. How had her life fallen apart so completely? What exactly happened to her during all those years he was away? Come along with us as we unfold this heartfelt story. Dear viewers, if you love emotional stories like this, please show your support by subscribing to our channel so you never miss an update. Let's begin. Late into the night, the plane touched down at the airport. Even at this hour, the terminal remained bustling with crowds. Chen Weihou walked slowly through the arrival hall, a suitcase in one hand and a duffel bag slung over his other shoulder. For years, he had studied and worked abroad, pushing through countless hardships. Now he was finally back home, an accomplished and wealthy man. Stepping outside the airport, he hailed a taxi and headed for a hotel he had booked weeks before leaving overseas. As the car drove through the city streets, he stared out the window, his mind wandering far away. His thoughts drifted to someone he had never stopped thinking about. Before long, the taxi pulled up in front of a five-star hotel. Chen Wei had made his reservation an entire week earlier. He walked straight to the front desk and spoke to the receptionist. "I have a reservation under the name Chen Weihou." The staff pulled up the system records and checked repeatedly, then her expression softened into a confused look. "Sir, I cannot find any booking under your name." Chen Wei frowned, utterly confused. "That's impossible." He pulled out his phone and showed her the official booking confirmation. The hotel staff contacted their internal team and double-checked every detail. It did not take long for them to figure out the problem. "Our website suffered a technical glitch on the day you booked. A number of reservations failed to load into our main system." Chen Wei fell silent for an moment. "So what does this mean for my stay?" he asked. The receptionist lowered her voice gently. "It means your reservation is not registered in our system anymore." His face darkened with disappointment. "Do you have any available rooms left?" The receptionist slowly shook her head. "I'm sorry, sir, we are fully booked tonight." Chen Wei stood there quietly for a while, then picked up his luggage and walked out of the hotel. He stopped another taxi and told the driver to take him to the nearest available hotel. The driver nodded, and the car wove through city streets until it reached a modest yet neat and clean hotel. Chen Wei went inside, paid for a room, and received his key card. Exhausted from the long journey, he entered his room and fell fast asleep right away. Early the next morning, he headed to the bathroom to take a quick shower. Just then, someone knocked on his door, and a soft female voice came from outside. "Good morning, housekeeping. May I come in to tidy up?" Chen Wei froze where he stood inside the bathroom. There was something incredibly familiar about that voice, though he could not place it right away. "The door is unlocked," he called out. "Thank you." He heard the door open and close, then continued with his shower. When he finished and stepped out of the bathroom, he dried his hair with a towel and glanced across the room. A housekeeper stood beside the bed, her side turned toward him as she straightened the sheets. Chen Wei froze completely, his hands still resting on top of his head. He studied her closely, and that overwhelming sense of familiarity grew stronger by the second. He took slow steps forward, moving closer and closer. The moment he got a clear view of her face, his whole body went rigid. It was her, Yusuan Lin, the woman he had searched for year after year, the person who had supported him wholeheartedly when he left for overseas, his promised fiancée. Now here she was, dressed in a simple uniform, cleaning a hotel room. His voice trembled softly as he spoke her name. "Yusuan." Yusuan's hands stopped moving at once. She turned around slowly, and their eyes locked. The cleaning cloth slipped out of her grasp and clattered to the floor. She stood frozen in shock for a long moment before she whisped, "Red, Chen Wei." Chen Wei said her name again, his eyes filled with a storm of emotions. Yusuan stared at the man she had missed for so long, and her legs suddenly gave out. "Yusuan!" Chen Wei shouted, rushing forward to catch her in his arms. "Yusuan, please wake up." Panic surged through him. He called out for help, and hotel staff rushed into the room. "She's fainted. Call for medical assistance immediately," one staff member said. Chen Wei held her tightly in his arms, calling her name over and over, but she remained unresponsive. Without hesitation, he lifted her up and asked everyone nearby for directions to the nearest hospital, then rushed out of the hotel. After years of relentless searching, he had finally found her again, yet seeing her in such a fragile state broke his heart completely. Inside the hospital waiting area, Chen Wei could not bring himself to sit down. He paced back and forth, lost and distraught. Reunited after so many years, the bright, lively woman he once knew was now a hotel housekeeper, lying weak in a hospital bed. Questions and heartache weighed heavily on his mind. He could not stay still, so he walked around the hospital grounds, and old memories began to flood his mind. Many years ago, the two of them had hunted for jobs together right after graduation. Life was tough and simple back then, but they always stood side by side, bound by deep, sincere love. Chen Wei earned very little money at the time and lived in a tiny single-room apartment. Every weekend, Yusuan would come to visit him, bringing small snacks and daily necessities to cheer him up. They would sit and talk for hours, dreaming about their future together. Eventually, both landed steady jobs, and Yusuan even earned a better salary. They worked hard every single day, planning step by step for the happy life they hoped to build. Everything changed one ordinary day at Chen Wei's workplace. He saw a colleague filling out an application for an overseas scholarship. Curious, he asked for more information and learned that anyone who passed the assessment could go abroad to pursue a master's degree. The idea took root in his heart. A few weeks later, that same colleague was accepted into the program, proving the opportunity was real. Studying overseas and changing his fate had always been Chen Wei's biggest dream. After careful thought, he decided to give it a try. At first, he did not take it seriously and did not even tell Yusuan, thinking his application would never be approved. To his complete surprise, he received an acceptance email one early morning. He read the message over and over again in disbelief, then realized a major problem. The scholarship only covered tuition fees. He still needed a large sum of money for travel expenses and living costs overseas, and his departure date was only a few months away. That evening after work, he called Yusuan and asked her to come to his apartment, saying he had important news to share. Yusuan arrived full of excitement, pressing him to reveal what was going on. Chen Wei sat down slowly and told her everything about the scholarship, his application, and his unexpected acceptance. Joy lit up Yusuan's face instantly. She stood up and hugged him tightly, truly happy for his good fortune. The cheerful mood faded quickly when Chen Wei's expression turned somber. Yusuan noticed the change and moved closer to ask what was wrong. He took a deep breath and explained his difficult situation. His meager savings could never cover the travel fees, and it seemed his dream would slip away. Yusuan's smile faded, and the room fell quiet for a moment. Then she reached out and held his hands firmly. "We will get through this together. Whatever happens, I'm right here with you." What she said next changed their lives forever. She told him she would use all her life savings to help him. Chen Wei stared at her in shock. "Are you truly sure about this?" Yusuan squeezed his hands gently, her eyes firm and loving. "When it comes to you, I have no doubts at all. I love you, Chen Wei. I believe in you, and I know you will never let me down." Chen Wei looked at her for a long time and told her he loved her too. That night, he made a solemn promise. He said once he finished his studies, he would settle down and work overseas to build a wonderful future for the two of them. Yusuan trusted him completely. From that day on, they planned every detail together. The savings Yusuan gave him were far more than what Chen Wei had managed to gather on his own, solving their biggest financial trouble. Before he left the country, he bought a ring and proposed to her, a symbol of the promise they had made to each other. When the day of departure arrived, they went to the airport hand in hand. It was an emotional goodbye. They held each other for a very long time, neither willing to let go. In the end, Chen Wei boarded the plane and left for a foreign land. Back in the present moment, Chen Wei stopped walking and returned to the waiting area to sit down, his heart still heavy with sorrow. Just then, a doctor walked over, looking around for family members. Chen Wei stood up right away and rushed to ask about Yusuan's condition. The doctor wore a serious expression. "We ran standard tests to check her condition after the shock, but we discovered another issue. She has been suffering from a chronic illness for quite a long time, and she needs surgery as soon as possible." Chen Wei fell silent, his chest tight with pain. He finally asked if she was awake. "Yes, she's awake now and resting," the doctor replied. Without hesitation, Chen Wei followed him into the patient room. The room was quiet. Yusuan lay weakly on the hospital bed with her eyes closed. Chen Wei stepped softly to her side and looked at her carefully. His heart ached deeply. She was extremely thin now, her face pale and exhausted. This was not the vibrant woman he remembered. Life had clearly dealt her countless hardships. He pulled a chair beside the bed and sat down, his mind filled with endless questions. What had happened after he left? How had she ended up working as a hotel housekeeper? The more he looked at her, the heavier his heart felt. Suddenly, Yusuan stirred slightly. Chen Wei watched closely as she slowly opened her eyes. She looked around weakly, trying to figure out where she was, then her gaze landed on him. Shock flashed across her face once again. Chen Wei leaned forward and spoke softly. "Easy now. It's me. I'm here, and everything will be alright." Yusuan stared at him, tears slowly welling up in her eyes. "Chen Wei, it's really me," he answered gently. She still seemed unable to believe her eyes and slowly reached out to touch his face, her hand trembling. "You're actually here." Chen Wei held her hand carefully. "I'm right here." For several seconds, neither of them spoke. They simply looked at each other. So many years had passed, yet this reunion still felt like a dream. Chen Wei could see dozens of questions in her eyes, but his main concern was her health. "The doctor told me you've been sick for a long time, and you require surgery." Yusuan lowered her gaze quietly. "I already knew that." Chen Wei looked surprised. "You knew?" She nodded weakly. "I found out many years ago. I've been working hard to save money for the operation. That's why I took the housekeeping job at the hotel." Every piece of the puzzle finally clicked into place for Chen Wei, and his sympathy grew stronger. He wanted to ask about her old well-paid job, but seeing how weak she was and how she winced in pain while speaking, he chose to stay quiet. Yu Suan also had so many things she wanted to ask, but she remained silent too. Chen Wei adjusted the blanket over her gently. Please rest for now. Yu Suan looked at him softly and closed her eyes again. After watching over her for a while, Chen Wei quietly left the room and headed straight for the doctor's office. Doctor, please tell me everything, he said seriously. The doctor explained her illness, the surgical procedure, and how urgent the operation was. Chen Wei listened without interruption. What do we need to start immediately? There are medical fees and preparation work that must be handled right away. Chen Wei did not hesitate for a single second. Arrange everything at once. I don't want any delays. The doctor looked surprised. You want us to start right now? Yes, Chen Wei replied firmly. He took care of all the payments, signed every document, and asked detailed questions about the surgery. Before leaving the office, he spoke again. Please do everything you can to save her. We will do our absolute best, the doctor assured him. Preparations for the surgery began that very day. Medical staff moved in and out of Yu Suan's room constantly. By evening, hospital staff wheeled her bed toward the operating room. As they walked down the hallway, one thought echoed in Chen Wei's mind: please protect her life. I cannot bear to lose her again. Thankfully, the surgery was a complete success. The doctor explained that she still needed to stay in the hospital for observation and proper rest to monitor her recovery. Over the next few days, Yu Suan remained in the hospital, and Chen Wei kept himself busy as well. Months before returning home, he had contacted a real estate agency and purchased a fully furnished luxury house in one of the city's most prestigious neighborhoods. That day, he finalized all payments and officially received the house keys and property papers. At the same time, the luxury car he had shipped overseas months earlier had finally cleared customs. His agent called to inform him the vehicle was ready. No matter how much wealth and success surrounded him, his thoughts always returned to Yu Suan. 4 days later, Chen Wei arrived at the hospital early in the morning. After a thorough checkup, the doctor smiled. She's recovering wonderfully. Relief washed over Chen Wei's face. So she can go home today? Yes. She's well enough to leave, but she still needs plenty of rest. Chen Wei thanked the doctor and walked back into the ward. Yu Suan was sitting up quietly on the bed. We're going home now, he said gently. Home, she repeated slowly. Chen Wei gave a faint smile and helped her stand up carefully. Take it slow. I'm fine, Yu Suan said, yet he still supported her every step. When they walked outside the hospital, Yu Suan's eyes widened at the sight of the expensive luxury car. She turned to look at him in confusion. Chen Wei simply opened the passenger door and helped her get seated, then walked around to the driver's seat. The car pulled away from the hospital, traveling along busy city roads. Silence filled the vehicle. Yu Suan stole glances at him repeatedly, her mind full of unanswered questions. Chen Wei also had much to ask, but neither knew where to begin. Finally, Yu Suan broke the silence. Where are we going? To my home, Chen Wei replied casually. I found a small place to stay while you were in the hospital. The car soon left the busy downtown area and entered an elegant residential district. The streets were clean and peaceful, lined with grand mansions behind beautiful gates, and luxury cars were everywhere. Yu Suan looked out the window, then back at Chen Wei. She knew instantly that the small place he mentioned was nothing ordinary. Even the most modest home in this neighborhood cost a fortune. Chen Wei said nothing and kept driving until the car stopped in front of a massive iron gate. The gate opened automatically, and the car rolled into a huge courtyard. Yu Suan looked around in amazement. The yard alone was larger than some hotels she had worked in. After parking, Chen Wei quickly got out and helped her down from the car. They walked slowly into the mansion, and Yu Suan was left speechless. Every corner was decorated with elegant, high-end furniture, lighting, and ornaments. Chen Wei led her upstairs and opened a bedroom door. This room is yours. Go take a bath and freshen up. I'll go get you some food. He left the room, and soon she heard his car drive out of the courtyard. Yu Suan explored the bedroom first, then walked into the enormous bathroom fitted with modern, luxurious fixtures and a large jacuzzi tub. She reached out and touched the surface gently, still unable to believe this place was real. After her bath, she felt more refreshed and curious, so she walked through the entire mansion. The kitchen alone was bigger than the small apartment she had once lived in. She stepped up to the large kitchen island and brushed her fingers across its smooth surface. Old memories flooded back. Years ago, the two of them had dreamed of a comfortable, peaceful home just like this. Back then, it had only been a distant fantasy, but now Chen Wei was living that dream. She could not help but wonder how he had become so wealthy over the years. Just then, the front door opened, and she froze. She walked out to the living room and saw Chen Wei carrying takeout food inside. I brought dinner. Let's eat first, then it's time for your medicine. He set the food down and pulled out a chair for her. Yu Suan stood her ground and shook her head. I won't eat a thing until you tell me everything. Chen Wei tried to persuade her to eat and rest first, but she refused. She looked straight at him. Why did you disappear completely 2 months after you went overseas? And how did you become so rich? Silence filled the room. Chen Wei closed his eyes, knowing he could no longer keep anything hidden. He pulled out a chair and sat down. I will tell you the whole story. Please sit. Yu Suan walked over and took a seat. Do you remember the morning 2 months after I left for overseas? Yu Suan nodded. Yes, I remember. We talked on the phone that day, just like usual. You said you were rushing to catch a train for class. That morning, I hurried onto the train so I wouldn't be late. During the break later on, I reached into my pocket to call you, and my phone was gone. Yu Suan's eyes widened in shock. I searched my bag, checked the classroom, and looked everywhere. I finally realized I must have dropped it on the train while putting my phone away. He paused. From that day on, I lost all contact with you. I no longer had your number or any way to reach you. I went back to the train station many times, trying to find that same train, but I never succeeded. I thought about sending letters, yet I feared they would never reach you. He leaned back in his chair. I was completely alone, but I had to keep moving forward. I finished my master's degree and got a job through friends I met at school to support myself. In my free time after work, a group of friends and I worked on a small tech project. It started tiny, but it grew bigger and bigger. Eventually, the profits were so high we quit our full-time jobs to focus on it entirely. After about 2 years, we sold the company. The payout was a huge sum of money. That was when I decided to come back home. He continued his story. 1 year after I graduated, a friend who helped me get the scholarship plan to return home. I asked him to deliver a message to you. He went to your old address, but you were already gone. I spent years wondering where you had gone. Then I saw you in that hotel, cleaning rooms. That moment broke my heart. He looked at her with pain in his eyes. Now tell me what happened to you. Yu Suan stayed quiet for a long time before she began to speak softly. At first, everything was fine after you left. Then 2 months later, I could no longer get through to you on the phone. I tried over and over again, but the line never connected. I worried constantly and missed you terribly. A few months after that, the company I worked for went bankrupt. They laid off all employees and gave us only small severance packages. I had already given all my savings to you for your travel fees, so I had almost no money left. If I used the severance pay for rent, I would have nothing to live on. I moved to an even smaller place to save money while I looked for new work. I applied for job after job, but no one was hiring, no matter where I went. One day, I was walking home after a failed job interview. I felt exhausted, then sudden sharp pain spread across my chest. I grew dizzy and collapsed on the street. A kind stranger found me and took me to the hospital. That's when I learned I needed major surgery right away. Her voice trembled slightly, but I had no money at all. I could barely afford food, let alone expensive medical bills. That's why I took the housekeeping job at the hotel. I pushed through the pain and worked every single day. I needed money for food and for my surgery. Deep down, I knew this low-paying job would never earn enough for the operation, but I had no other choice. I just kept going, day after day. Chen Wei's hands tightened with sorrow. I'm so sorry. Yu Suan shook her head gently. It's not your fault. Life is full of unexpected turns. We survived somehow. If fate hadn't meant for us to meet again, we never would have crossed paths. Chen Wei fell into thought. Perhaps you're right. Maybe none of this was just coincidence. He reached out and held her hands firmly. I'm here now, and I will never leave you again. I came back to keep my promises. I don't just want success, I want to build a life together with you. Tears streamed down Yu Suan's face, and Chen Wei's eyes also grew misty. Without saying a word, he pulled her into a warm embrace. They held each other tightly, afraid to lose one another once more. At the exact same time, they whispered, I love you. After a while, they pulled apart. Please eat something and take your medicine now, Chen Wei said gently. In the days that followed, they grew even closer. They talked for hours about all the lonely, difficult years apart, sharing every struggle they had endured. Chen Wei took perfect care of Yu Suan throughout her recovery, making sure she had everything she needed. Little by little, her health improved completely. A few weeks later, she was fully healed. Chen Wei began taking her out again, shopping at high-end boutiques, buying her beautiful dresses, shoes, and fine jewelry. He took her to luxury salons and gifted her exquisite accessories. One afternoon, he handed her a car key. Yu Suan stared at it in shock. What is this? It's yours, Chen Wei smiled. You bought me a car? You deserve so much more than this. Tears filled her eyes. You do far too much for me. Chen Wei looked at her sincerely. I'm simply taking care of the woman I love. Yu Suan smiled and hugged him tightly. Meanwhile, Chen Wei was busy setting up his new tech company. He spent hours on business calls and meetings every day, but no matter how busy he got, he always made time for Yu Suan. One evening, they sat together in the dimly lit living room watching a movie. Yu Suan tapped his arm softly. Honey, I want to talk to you about your new company. Chen Wei turned down the TV volume and gave her his full attention. What is it? I know you wanted us to run the tech company together, and I truly appreciate that. But I don't have a background in technology. As a business administrator, I could help with management work, yet I've been thinking about a different plan. She met his gaze. What if we start separate businesses? You focus on your tech company, and I build my own business too. This way, we won't don't rely on just one source of income. We can grow and expand our ventures step by step over time. The room fell quiet for a moment. Chen Wei thought carefully, then smiled warmly. You've always been so intelligent. That's one of the many things I love about you. A single business can last for years, but people who build lasting success always grow in different directions. This is a very wise idea. Yu Suan's face lit up with joy. So you like my plan? I love it. His expression turned soft and serious. But before we start any new businesses, there is something far more important we need to do first. Suddenly, he pointed dramatically toward the kitchen. Wait, what is that by the kitchen entrance? Yu Suan jumped in fright and turned to look. The second she faced forward again, she froze. Chen Wei was down on one knee, holding a stunning diamond ring in his hand. She covered her mouth in surprise. You scared me. Chen Wei laughed softly. My apologies, my love. His playful mood faded, and his eyes filled with deep emotion. We did this once before, right before I left the country. That was a different time. Now I want to ask you again, with all my heart. You have stayed in my heart every single day all these years. I have never stopped loving you. Now that I've found you once more, I will never let you go. Yu Suan, will you marry me? Tears rolled down her cheeks as she nodded repeatedly. Yes. Chen Wei slipped the ring onto her finger and stood up. Yu Suan ran into his arms and hugged him tightly. I love you so much. I love you too. He walked over to the TV cabinet, opened a drawer, and pulled out 2 passports. Yu Suan's eyes widened. What are these? I already applied for 2-week tourist visas for both of us. We're going on vacation overseas. She jumped up happily and hugged him again, overwhelmed with excitement. There's more, Chen Wei said with a smile. I've already contacted a wedding planner. You can meet with her to plan our wedding details. We will hold our wedding as soon as we return from our trip. Weeks later, they traveled abroad together. For Yu Suan, those were the happiest days of her life. She visited breathtaking places and enjoyed peaceful, joyful moments with the man she loved. When they returned home, their grand, glamorous wedding took place. Standing side by side on their wedding day, both wearing bright smiles, they understood a profound truth. Life may separate people for years, but true love always finds its way home. What distance, silence, and uncertainty had broken apart was rebuilt with honesty, sacrifice, and forgiveness. Chen Wei and Yu Suan did not just find each other again, they found healing, understanding, and a second chance at love. This story teaches us a valuable lesson. Life can pull people apart and change circumstances in ways we never expect. True love is not only about sharing happy times together. It is about loyalty, patience, and the strength to hold on when everything falls apart. Sometimes what feels like a long delay is simply life preparing something far more wonderful than you could ever imagine. Now we want to hear from you. What do you think about Chen Wei and Yu Suan's story? Do you believe true love can survive the test of time and distance? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story touched your heart, please hit the like button and share it with your friends. More heartfelt and emotional stories are coming soon, so make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new video. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you for staying until the very end.